Okay, all right, the date. September 25th, 1927. The time. Well, it was a Monday Night Football, I can tell you that. The teams, the New York Football Giants at the Providence Steamroller, and the place, the Cyclodrome. This would be, Giants are going back, basically, if you want to go back 2 years in time. This is the Giants' first game of the season, 1927. 1925, first game of the season, the first game ever, first regular season game ever, 1925, at the Providence Steamroller at the Cyclodrome. This outcome would be better than the one they had in 1925, which was on October 11th, 1925. October 11, 1925, they would lose 14-0 to Providence. That would be the first game ever. But 1927 is the beginning of the championship season for the Giants. They would start off 1-0. Win a real barn burner here, 8-0, and it wasn't a 2-point conversion in there. I can tell you that much. So they would start off 1-0. Now, they played a lot of games this season. I believe the Giants played 22 games this season. That obviously includes exhibition games, but they only played one exhibition game before the season started. I did a video on that. They played the Orange Athletic Club basically the week before this. It was the Sunday before this. That was September 18th, 1927. This was obviously September 25th, 1927. They beat the Orange Athletic Club 6-0. And the Giants' defense this 1927 was remarkable. They played 13 regular season games. They gave up 20 points. They gave up 3 touchdowns all season long. So their defense was very, very good. Their offense did take a little while to get started. I'm cheating here. I'm looking online here. So including the Giants, their offense, okay, the 1927 season here, right? So including the exhibition game when they beat the Orange Athletic Club 6-0. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically, out of their first 5 games, 4 out of the first 5 games, the Giants scored, either got shut out or they had single digits. They're only one game in there. They beat the Pottsville Maroons 19-0 on October 9th. But then they lost to the Cleveland Bulldogs, and I'll be doing videos on all these games. But on October 16th, they played the Cleveland Bulldogs at home, and they lost 6-0. But after that, they started scoring up points. They 4 out of the first 5 games, they scored 6 points. They scored 8 points. They got a shutout 2 times, and they scored 19. But after that, I mean, they just obviously I wasn't there, don't know what it was, but they turned it around. I mean, out of their 13 games, they had 10 shutouts in the 1927 season, but they scored 13 points, 27, 16, 21, 25, 19, 33, 28, 18, 13, 14, 13. They played the day after Christmas, December 26th, 1927, against at the Arbuckle American Legion at Nevers Field in Santa Rosa, California. They played the Arbuckle American Legion the day after Christmas, and they won 70-0. So, I mean, they were a phenomenal team. It is a bit weird because this one particular season, okay, they were 11-1-1. They won the championship, first year championship. As I just showed you there, they started scoring some points, and I said their defense was fantastic. So they went from 11-1-1 and went in the championship in 1927 to 1928. They had a losing record. They were 5-8-2. I mean, it was just total. I mean, in 1928, they constantly kept getting shut out. Their defense gave up a lot of points. It's just rather head scratching. But they played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. They played 22 games. So basically, they played 13. So they played 9 exhibition games throughout the season. A lot of them were obviously after the season was over. After the season was over, 1, 2, 3, 4. They played 5 exhibition games after the season was over. But interestingly, though, they played a couple exhibition games during the regular season as well, too. So they were keeping very, very busy. But so the Giants, this would be the Giants' first game of the season. They would wind up winning 8-0 at Providence at the Cyclodrome. I have like 2 articles. This is by far, I've been doing, this is obviously my 3rd season I've been covering with the Giants, doing these videos. And so between the 1925 season, 1926, and the 1927, this one particular game at Providence is by far the absolute worst as far as coverage from newspapers. There's a little snippet I'm going to read. I saw online, and when we get into the actual details of the game, whatever small details there were, because once again, there was not much coverage on this at all. But in this little snippet I'm going to read, it talks about like the local newspapers maybe talking about a little bit about this game. So quite possibly, because I'm going online, I got a membership to one of the newspaper subscriptions. And they have a lot of newspapers, but they don't have them all. And I can't find much at all on this one particular game. So quite possibly there were some articles maybe written, years past or whatever that are not, I can't get through my subscription. I don't exactly know, but this game was by far the absolute least covered of all the games I've done so far with the Giants. So I said, whatever I have, I'm going to wind up reading, but it's not a whole heck of a lot. But the Providence Steamroller, the Giants played Providence. I believe they played them 2 times in 1925. They split. In 1925, they lost the first game of the season to them for the first game basically ever in Giants regular season game in Giants history. They lost 14-0 to them. They did play them later on in the 1925 season. They played them November 15th, and they would beat them 13-12. Then in 1926, I think they played them 2 times. They beat them 7-6 at Providence. And did they play them again twice? Let's see. Yeah, then they beat them 21-0. So it's the same thing here. All right, let's see. Pottsville, they played them once, and then they played them once again. They played them 2 times during this season as well. They would win this game 8-0, and then they would play them later on in the season on November 8th at the Polo Grounds, and they would beat them 25-0. So the Giants, kind of had this, for the most part, kind of had Providence's number up to this particular year. I think as of the 27th season, the Giants and the Providence Steamroller would play 6 times, 2 times in 25, 2 times in 26, and 2 times in 1927. Giants would win 5 out of the 6 games. But the one interesting thing, is that between the New York Football Giants and the Providence Steamroller, right, is that these were the 2 teams that won the championships in 1928. The Providence Steamroller would be the last defunct, or the last football team that's no longer in existence to win the championship. The Giants won in 1927. The Providence Steamroller won in 1928. And obviously the Providence Steamroller are no longer around. But after 1928, starting in 1929, every team that won the championship in the NFL / and or AFL is still in existence. 1929, 30, and 31, the Green Bay Packers won. 32 and 33, the Chicago Bears won. 34, Giants won. 35, the Detroit Lions won. 36, the Green Bay Packers won. 37, the Washington Redskins won. 38, the New York Giants won. 39, the Green Bay Packers won. 40 and 41, Chicago Bears. 42, the Washington Redskins. 43, the Chicago Bears. 44, the Green Bay Packers beat the Giants. 45, the Cleveland Rams, the last game they ever played in Cleveland. 1947, they went out to the West Coast and became the Los Angeles Rams. But 1946, the Cleveland Rams won. 47, the Chicago Cardinals won. It's the last championship the Cardinals won. But once again, all these teams are still around. The Rams, they were in Cleveland, but they went out to, they were in Cleveland. They went to Los Angeles, came to St. Louis. They were at Anaheim, Los Angeles, Anaheim, Los Angeles. I mean, you need a scorecard to keep up with where the Rams have been at. But I said all these teams are still around. 47 was the Cardinals, 48 and 49 were the Eagles, 48, 49, 1950, that's when the Cleveland Browns left the All-American Football Conference and they joined the NFL in 1950. The Browns won 51, the Rams won 52 and 53, the Lions won 54 and 55, the Browns won 56, the Giants won 57, the Lions won 58 and 59. With the Colts, 60 was the Eagles, 61, 62 was the Packers, 63 was the Bears, 64 was the Browns, 65, 66, 67 was the Packers, 68. This is the in the NFL, right? 68 was the Colts, 69 was the Vikings, who went to the Super Bowl in 1970. With the Cowboys. So all these teams, they're all still around. So in 1928, the Providence Steamroller would wind up winning. So, and 1928, the Providence Steamroller were a very, very good team. I have to say 1928, the Giants were not. But 1927, this is the first game of the season for the Giants. Started off 8-0. So I got, so once again, they're playing, early on in Providence. Let's see, hold on here. 1926 here, the New York Giants. When did I know they played. That was their second game. 1925, the Giants' first ever game, period, was in Providence. 1926, their second game of the season was in Providence. 1927, their first game of the season was in Providence. So Giants always started off on the road because they were sharing the polo grounds with the New York baseball Giants. And I'm imagining not wanting to chew up the field. Also, sometimes if the Giants maybe made the World Series, the Giants wouldn't want to have a football game conflicting with the World Series game, whatever. So the Giants usually started out on the road. And 1926. What do we got here? The Giants played 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like the Giants played 5 games in a row on the road here in 1927. They played their first 4 games on the road. The Giants, 1927, their first home game wasn't until October 16th, which would be well after the baseball season would end. Right. So I said, so the Giants always opened up, on the road. 1926, their first game, was against the Hartford Blues, Hartford, Connecticut. Then it is 1926. Their second game was in Rhode Island against the Providence Steamrollers. So the Giants usually played Providence on the road back then, 25, 26, 27. What about 28 here? 1928. Let's see. No, they played. When did they play Providence? Yeah, they didn't play Providence until late in the season in 28. But the first 3 seasons the Giants played in Providence, they played them early. Now, interestingly, the Cyclodrome all right, is a for the most part, it was able to hold a football field, basically, but it's a cyclodrome. It was a bicycle stadium. The fans were able to fit around the whole stadium. It was a bike configuration for bicycles. Had the straightaways obviously down the sidelines, but interestingly, as they got into the corner of the end zone, it would bank up, right? So the guys on a bicycle could, I guess take the turns at high speeds. I guess they didn't have to slow down, so it would bank up. But what it would also do, it would cut off the back corners of the end zones. So, I mean, most of the end zone was 10 yards, but just the very back corner, some of it might be like only 5 yards deep. If you ever see, type in the cyclodrome, and you maybe look for pictures on Google, and you can see the back corners of the end zone were actually cut off due to the bike, the trail that the bike, they were riding on. So, but so I'm going to read this. This is where this game was played. It was in the cyclodrome, right? Cyclodrome is an American football stadium and velodrome located in Providence, Rhode Island. Its name derived from its intended use as a bicycle racing stadium, the velodrome, when it was built in 1925. So, when the Giants played there, this cyclodrome was basically brand new. When they first started playing in 1925, their first ever game, this stadium here was relatively brand new. It didn't last very long. It got closed in 1937, so it was only around for basically looked like 13 seasons, 13, I guess, and then it got demolished in 1938. Construction of the cyclodrome was financed by Peter Lodaddy. Let's see here. The cyclodrome was constructed on a plot of land behind an electric streetcar barn in between the cities of Providence and Pawtucket, Rhode Island. The venue had a capacity of 12,000, including 2,000 grandstand seats and 2,000 pavilion seats, and was surrounded by a promenade that provided shelter in case of rain. It was lit by 52 500-watt bulbs. Wow. Placed around the track. Improvements were also made to the surrounding area, which included adding streetlights to North Main and Anne Mary Streets. The cyclodrome held its first cycling event on May 29, 1925. So May, June, July, August, September. So basically about 4 months or so after the track opened. Right, about 4 months when the Giants played their first game in the cyclodrome in 1925. The track was rebuilt in 1929, and it went boom in several places the previous year. Not sure what the heck that means, but cycling. The track's most prestigious annual event was the Golden Wheel, a 50-mile race that had previously been held in the Cranston Cyclodrome. The cyclodrome was also hosted the New England Shrines Race of Nations, which featured cyclists from the United States, Italy, Belgium, and France. In 1929, the cyclodrome held a round of the American Motor Paced Racing Championship, which included some guys, George Chapman, Victor Hopkins. I don't know who they are. The 1929 season finale was headlined by a motor-paced race between Chapman, Hopkins, some other guys. So actually, it looks like it held a sprint car on the track. Football. The stadium was home to the Providence Steamroller of the National Football League from 1925 to 1933, who played their games in the infield of the velodrome. The football field was snugly surrounded by a wooden track with steeply banked ends, which cut sharply into the end zones and reduced them to just 5 yards in depth. Not the whole thing, just the corners. During football games, temporary seating was permitted on the straightaway portion of the track, which was so close to the field that players, after being tackled, often found themselves in the stands. In 1930, floodlights were installed at the stadium for night games, and the Steamroller became the first NFL team to host a game under lights. The cyclodrome was also used by the Providence Huskies and hosted high school games. It also looks like it hosted soccer, boxing, had a boxing event there in 1925, wrestling. I guess the pre-WWE wrestling it had there. In later years, let's see. In later years, the Cyclodrome was the location of a Lowe's Drive-In Theater. The site is now home to an Ocean State job lot and a Peter Pan bus terminal. So it's an interesting configuration. Very, very interesting configuration. All right, let's see. 19 have the Providence. I just want to go over the little bit of the history here of the Providence Steamroller because they went yeah. There you go. All right, here we go. Providence Steamroller. Pre-NFL, the Steamrollers were established in 1916 by members of the Providence Journal, sports editor Charles Coppin, and part-time sports writer Pierce Johnson. Three men shared in the ownership and management of the team: Coppin, James Dooley, and Peter Laudati. Meanwhile, Johnson stayed on as the team's manager for each year of its existence. The team soon became a regional power, and by the mid-1920s was known as the best independent team in the country. By 1919, the team was drawing in more spectators than Brown University by a margin of 2-1. According to newspaper reports at the time, however, it seemed unlikely since the Steamrollers crowd was on an average of 3,000 spectators a game. Wow. The players' wages were lower than those of Indiana and Ohio, so it was harder for the Steamrollers to bring in ringers. Several college football players did play for the Steamrollers, but under aliases, so as not to jeopardize their amateur status. 1924, Providence scheduled featured several NFL teams. The Steamrollers posted a 3-2-1 record against those featured NFL teams. They defeated the Rochester Jeffersons, the Minneapolis Marines, and the Dayton Triangles. Both of their losses came against the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. 1924, Yellow Jackets back then were a very good team. 1926, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets were the champions of the world. Let's see here. The team also posted a scoreless tie against the Columbus Tigers. The 1924 Steamrollers then went on to win the mythical undisputed championship of the Northeast. The team's success that season was enough to make the Steamrollers management and fans start thinking about playing in the NFL, which they did in 1925. The NFL years. Providence joined the NFL in time for the 1925 season. By that time, only 3 players from the 1924 team were still in the lineup when the team's first practice of 1925 was held on September 17th. In fact, only about a dozen of them wore Steamroller colors for the team's debut in the NFL. The Steamrollers played mediocre football in their first 2 NFL seasons, but posted a strong 8-5-1 record in 1927, this season here. They stumbled. The Providence Steamroller, they did stumble. There we go. Let's see here, 1927. They lost 2 out of their first 3 games, and then in the middle of the season, they lost 3 out of 4 games. But I mean, once again, 8-5-1, and you lose 5 games back then because it was the team that won the championship was the team that had the best winning percentage. So if you lose 5 games back then, you can forget about winning a championship. But 8-5-1 overall was a very respectable record, certainly. With Jim Conzelman, I think it is, as the team's head coach for his per game salary of $292, which is pretty good back then. Conzelman not only coached the team, but also played quarterback in the single wing formation. The star player for Providence was halfback George Wildcat Wilson, a 1925 All-American from the University of Washington who had spent the 1926 season as the head of the traveling Los Angeles Wildcats of the AFL. The 1928 season. Providence opened up its 1928 season against Red Grange and the New York Yankees, Wilson's rival from the AFL. The Steamrollers led the Yankees 20-7 at halftime and held that score throughout the second half. However, the team's next game resulted in a 10-6 loss to the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. However, the team soon rebounded with a 4-game winning streak over the Dayton Triangles, the Yankees, the Pottsville Maroons, and the Detroit Wolverines. The Steamrollers faced the Yellow Jackets again in Frankfurt Stadium on November 17th, which resulted in a scoreless tie. However, a week later at the Cyclodrome, Providence finally avenged its only loss of the season with a 6-0 victory over the Yellow Jackets. The team would then post wins over the Giants, Pottsville Maroons before ending its season with a 7-7 tie against the Green Bay Packers. Providence was named the 1928 NFL champions. Prior to the 1932 season, the NFL team with the best winning percentage was named the NFL champion. Despite the Yellow Jackets winning 3 more games than the Steamrollers and posting an 11-3-2 record, Providence was awarded the title due to having a better overall winning percentage. Let's see. In Providence, they had some of their. All right, here we go. Some NFL first from the Providence Steamroller. Over the course of the next 7 years, the team not only won an NFL championship, but also established 3 league firsts. 1925, Providence was the first NFL team to play its home games in a bicycle racing stadium, the Cyclodrome. 1929, the Steamrollers established 2 NFL firsts in the 6-day period between November 5th and November 10th. Providence played 4 games. Freaking crazy. The marathon string began against the Staten Island Stapletons, the Chicago Cardinals, and concluded with a 2-game series against the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. Although the Steamrollers made history, their 0-3-1 record during that 6-day stretch proved to be a scheduling disaster. During the second game of that 4-game series, Providence hosted the Cardinals on November 6th. The game was played at night at nearby Kinsley Park, where floodlights recently had been installed. The teams had originally been scheduled to play on Sunday, November 3rd, but heavy rains made the Cyclodrome field unplayable. Since neither team wanted to lose a payday, the historic night game was hastily scheduled. Because of this, Providence made history again by being the first team to host an NFL game at night under floodlights. Although the Steamrollers lost 16-0, the game was declared a success because 6,000 fans attended. There you go. I guess your original Monday Night Football game. Then they had their decline. Despite the 1928 championship, the team experienced troubles in 1929. On January 4th, 1929, Sonnenberg defeated Strangler Lewis. There's a story behind this. In 2 straight falls to capture the World Heavyweight Championship in professional wrestling. This caused Sonnenberg to stay out of football. He was part of the Providence Steamroller, but it's like in wrestling, it was not as dangerous to the body as a game of football, and I can make more money. So you go where the money's at. Let's see. So it caused Sonnenberg to stay out of football as he could make better money defending his title. Meanwhile, Odin quit pro football to take a job with an insurance company in Boston, and Smith decided to return to his native Missouri and coach football. Ximines also didn't fully recover from a knee injury sustained in 1928. Ryan Quist missed the first half of the season due to an illness, and Wildcat Wilson became complacent and turned into an ordinary back. The 1929 Steamroller team struggled to a 4-6-2 record. Basically the same thing with the Giants. 1927, the Giants win the championship. 1928, they have a losing record. 1928, the Providence Steamroller win the championship. 1929, they have a losing record. 1986, the Giants win the Super Bowl. 1987, they have a losing record. Right. So the Steamroller in 1929 struggled to a 4-6-2 record, resulting in the 7th-place league finish. This caused the fans who attended each game during the championship season to stay home. And the fans start staying home. You're losing out big time on money. Big time. The team posted a 6-4-1 record in 1930 and 4-4-3 record in 1931. The lack of interest, coupled with the Great Depression, 1930, caused Dooley, Coppin, and Laudati to suspend operations after the 31 season. The three owners then gave up and turned the franchise back over to the NFL in 1933. And I was like this one here, just real fast, where they got their name from. That was pretty cool. During halftime against a game between the Steamrollers and the Providence Pros, Charles Coppin, who was getting a hot dog, heard a remark that the opposing team was getting steamrolled. Coppin loved the remark so much he named his team the Steamrollers. So that's where they wound up getting their nickname from. So I was kind of wondering, like, how the heck they get that? But that's how they got it. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So the Giants, opened up their season. They would wind up winning this game here, 8-0. Right? I said there's like absolutely almost nothing whatsoever on this game. One article I have, let's see here. Here we go. Is from the Standard Union, which is a paper in New York. I mean, it has a paragraph on it. Whoops. There we go. The New York Giants defeated the Providence Steamrollers in the opening National Football League yesterday afternoon by a score of 8-0. McBride's touchdown and a safety gave the Giants their points in the second period. That's it. That's the whole freaking story. I mean, usually the New York Times has something on this, but let me just go show you how much love or lack thereof. I mean, this is from the New York Times. Now, if the game was at home, if the game was in New York, thankfully the Giants played a lot of their games at home, thankfully. So there was a lot of coverage. Usually the Daily News always had. The thing I like about the New York Daily News was if the game was played on the road, the Daily News, football, what's that? What, Giant? What? Who? Huh? They like nothing. But if the game was at home, the Daily News usually had the game covered. Maybe they didn't have real elaborate coverage of, but a lot of times they had pictures, which was very, very cool. The New York Times didn't always have pictures. But the New York Times would usually have some type of a story, something on it. This one, I mean, it was just like the game just never existed. It was just simply amazing. Now, we like here, the New York Times. Let me see here. Is this it? Okay, here we go. All right. Is the New York Times from this is the day. It's from September 26th. That's the day after the game. They should have a story on the Giants football, but nope. They have a story here about the police clearing the field so the Giants can play. Baseball Giants. They have the Pirates trimming the Cubs in a doubleheader. So the game was played in Chicago, and they have a write-up from two baseball games. The Pirates and the Cubs played in Chicago. They got a write-up on that. They got the Tigers beating the Yankees. They have the New York Athletic Club, a baseball game for the New York Athletic Club. They got a story on that. They got stories on the Indians beating the White Sox. The game was played in Cleveland. They got a story on that. The Senators lose to the St. Louis Browns, so a game was played in Washington. They got a story on that. The Phillies topple the Reds. The game was played in Cincinnati. They got a little write-up on that. basically any baseball game was played, they got a story on it, wherever the game was played at. But a football game with the home Giants playing in Rhode Island, absolutely nothing. They got stories here. This is from the New York Times once again. They got some stories here basically about they got a story on soccer. An auto catches fire at a track. They talk about there's going to be a Gene Tunney. It's going to be a fight. And they got a story on that. Let's see. Let's see here. There's stories about college football games that are going to wind up being played. There's a news of golf clubs in the metropolitan area. Let's see what else they got here. I think there's another. They got aqueduct racing. They got results from that. Let's see. They got golf from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Let's see what else. I mean, they have at home. They got a golf match. It was in Bronxville, New York. Another Pine Valley, New Jersey. They got the golf there, but they have a write-up about a golf match that was in New Jersey. Basically, it's about 10 miles from where I live. Motor rallies win a 40-mile grind. A bike race. They got a story on bike racing. Police dog trials won by now. It's they got more stuff on baseball. They got the Pacific Coast League. They got scores from the Pacific Coast. They got San Francisco baseball. They beat Hollywood 11-1. They got Seattle beat Oakland. This is like Pacific Coast. They got write-ups on that. Let's see. Do they have anything else here? What else we got here? New York Tennis Club. Pro tennis. Polo. The Governor's Island wins at polo 17-1. They got a write-up on that. Polo. But nothing about football. Nothing about New York Giants football. Eastcott upsets the Magpies 13-5. And I don't even know what the hell sport is this here. Polo, another polo. They got stories on polo. They have Marshall to Sale Wednesday for chess tournament in London. There's a chess tournament in London. They got a write up on that. Anything about the New York Giants football game? Nope, absolutely nothing. So they got a story about London, 6 hours away. So we got to have a write-up on that. But the Giants are playing like 2 hours away in Rhode Island. But I got nothing on that. Rotolo easily wins in a 3,000-meter run. So they got a write-up on that. I don't know where the heck was that. That was that. But they got a story on a running race. As I said, it looks like there's lots of stuff on tennis, the Davis Cup. The AAU games. Let's see what else we got down here. First division polo team is Victor. There's a women roller skating, a 51-mile marathon. They got a write-up on that. 2 polo players got hurt. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. You think the way it is nowadays. I said that then there's all kinds of horse racing results. 10-meter yacht race goes to Cythera. So there's a yacht race. They got to write up on a yacht race. New York Football Giants, nothing. Now, I mean, this is the Giants' third season. It's not like they just started or anything like that. I mean, professional football has been around since 1920. This is the 1927. Absolutely nothing. They don't have, what I'm seeing there, they don't have a write-up of any of the games that got played on the weekend. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They have absolutely nothing in the New York Times about the New York Giants football game. Absolutely amazing. But they have polo, chess, horse racing, boxing, tennis, you name it. They got stories on it. All of the baseball games, football, absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. This was by far the absolute worst coverage I've been doing. I've been doing this for I've been doing this for 300 years. No, so this is the third season. I did on my channel here. I got all the games from the 25 season. Almost all of them had really nice, pretty nice coverage. 26 and did all the games from the 26 season and 1927. This is by far the absolute worst coverage. There was a little snippet here. It said it got written here. It says, following a dress rehearsal against the Orange Athletic Club, I did my video on that. That was on September 18th, 1927. The Giants wound up winning 6-0. Won that one 6-0. The Giants opened their regular season campaign by disappointing the 7,500 Providence fans who showed up at the cycle drum with a stifling 8-0 victory over the Steamroller. Now, as I said, I mean, the Giants' defense this season was very good. They played 13 regular season games. They gave up 20 points. They didn't give up a field goal all season, and they gave up only 3 touchdowns all season long. Fantastic defense. It says the local press lauded the Giants' great forward wall. So whoever the local press was, I don't know who that was. I don't know what newspaper that was, where it came from, or whatever. I can't find it. But let's see. The local press lauded the Giants' great forward wall and singled out Cal Hubbard, the rookie for the Giants. He put on one of the greatest displays of line work ever seen on a Providence gridiron. The rookie set up New York's only touchdown by blocking a punt that Giants Steve Owen, their captain, Steve Owen, who would go on to become their head coach from 1931 to 1953. So Cal Hubbard blocked the punt, and Steve Owen recovered at the Providence 2-yard line. Hubbard was also instrumental in limiting the home team to only 5. Providence only had 5 first downs all game long. So they really didn't have much going on there. I said the defense was really, really good. But I do have this article here, but it's like really like not much. It says Steamrollers. Now this is from the Boston Globe, so Boston, Massachusetts. So I mean, obviously, what was there other coverage? In other newspapers, I'm sure there probably was, but just from where I'm trying to gather my information from, I only found these 2 articles. The one from the Times-Union, which was a paragraph, which basically said almost absolutely nothing. And then there's this one, the Boston Globe. Okay. It says the New York Giants defeated the Providence Steamrollers in the opening National Football League game here this afternoon, 8-0. The Giants completely outplayed the Rollers. All the scoring was done in the second period. After being repulsed in the first quarter with the ball on the 1-foot line, the Giants went back to the second period, and after getting a fumble on the Rollers' 18-yard line, sent McBride over for a touchdown after a series of line plays. Now, let's see here. The safety occurred in the same time period when Bill Cronin received a bad pass and was tackled behind his own goal line. So, I'm not exactly sure because in this one on here it says Cal Hubbard blocked the punt and Owen recovered at the 2-yard line. So, but in this article from the Boston Globe, it says in the second period, after getting a fumble on the Steamrollers' 18-yard line, sent McBride over for a touchdown after a series of line plays. So I don't know. There's one thing that says online that Cal Hubbard blocked the punt. Steve Owen fell on the 2, and McBride, I guess, ran it in for a touchdown. The other one here says the Giants got a fumble on the 18-yard line, and McBride ran over a touchdown after a series of line plays. So then it says the safety occurred in the same period when Bill Cronin received a bad pass and was tackled behind his own goal line. So I don't know if that was maybe the block punt. That I don't know. I mean, the coverage here is just not very good at all. But the Giants, they scored 8 points. They missed the extra point. I guess doesn't even say what happened on the extra point. It's just apparently the Giants only scored 6 points on the touchdown. So, but then they tackled Cronin, who was, let's see here. I'm going to read off the starting lineups here. Thankfully, I got some starting lineups here. And Cronin looks like he was the starting left halfback. All right, he got tackled in the end zone, giving the Giants another 2 points. So the Giants would wind up winning 8-0. Now, according to these articles here, Steamrollers only had 5 first downs all game. I have no idea what the Giants had or anything like that, but it says the Giants were stopped in the first quarter with the ball on the 1-foot line. So they, and also in 1927, interestingly though, the goalposts were on the goal line. 1927, they moved the goalposts to the end line, which to some extent made some confusions. Made things a little confusing because all the players were used to the goalpost being on the goal line, and sometimes like players would be like running, and sometimes they would get into the end zone, but they would get tackled when they're in the end zone because sometimes the players thought that the goalpost was supposed to be on the goal line, not on the end line. So they figured they would wind up tackling the guy when he was in the end zone because he's still in front of the goalposts. So I mean, did cause some confusion. There was some confusing times during the season, but the goalposts were moved back. But so the Giants, I guess, were stopped on the 1-foot line. I don't know why they didn't try to kick a field goal. Maybe they were at such a bad angle. They had a hard time maybe trying to kick it. I don't know. But the Giants, apparently had another chance to score earlier on, score a touchdown. But apparently they were the better team that day, and they did wind up winning. Whatever the score was, they wound up winning. Whether they won 20-something nothing or 8-0, they were apparently the better team that day. And they had a good defense, and they did wind up winning. So the starting or the lineups for the Giants, okay, and the Steamrollers here. This is what I have here, okay. Paul Jaffe was the left end. Henry was apparently the starting left tackle, and Steve Owen came in and relieved him. I guess he looked like he was the I guess he subbed in at left tackle. Murtaugh was the left guard. Biggs and Alexander were the centers. So I guess Biggs might have been the starter, and Alexander came in maybe and subbed for him. Nesser was the right tackle. Hubbard was was the right end. Hubbard, Cal Hubbard, right? I love Tut Inlay was the starting quarterback for the Giants. Wyckoff looked like he was the starter at left halfback, and Wilson subbed in for him. Hinkie Haynes was the starter at right halfback. Haggerty came in and was a substitute for him. Looked like McBride was the starting fullback, and Phil White came in and was the substitute at fullback. All right. Then the Steamrollers, O'Connell was the starting right end. Julian, I guess, was the starting right tackle, and Spellman came in and subbed in for him. Smith was their starting right guard. Pariotti was their starting center, and it looked like Wesley came in and relieved him. Laird was the left guard. Kozlowski was the left tackle. Lynch was the starting left end, and Lowe came in and substituted for him. Kinselman was the starting quarterback. Wilson was the starting right halfback, and Jay Cronin came in and relieved him. Then B. Cronin was the left halfback. Hayden and Odin, looks like they had a couple substitutes at left halfback. Hayden and Odin. Looks like Cronin came in, was the starting left halfback for Steamrollers. Hayden looked like he subbed in for him, and then later on, I guess Odin came in and subbed in for him. Pritchard was the starting fullback, and Young came in and substituted for him. So those are your starting, those are your substitutes. But I said, but there's not much written on this game at all. I mean, not that a lot happened, but I mean, I've gone through articles and articles and articles, and I've seen scoreless ties have like, paragraphs of stuff of what happened. I've even seen I've had games that have like actual play by play. A team wins 3-0, and there's like a play. A lot of it depends upon what the team is or who the team is. Because like Buffalo had phenomenal coverage on their teams. Certain teams had really good coverage. Now, New York, the Giants had decent coverage if they were playing at home. If they were on the road, sometimes it was kind of up for grabs, and this would be one of those. I mean, it was just not. I mean, apparently there wasn't a lot going on in this game. But then again, a lot of games back then wasn't a lot going on either, and there was a lot of coverage. This game here, the New York Giants at the Providence Steamroller game on September 25th, 1927, was by far the worst coverage I've seen as far as newspaper coverage. So it is what it is. But the Giants started their season off with an 8-0 victory over the Providence Steamroller. And they said this is a start off 1-0, and they would wind up finishing the season 11-1-1 and winning their first championship. So that's what happened on this day, September 25th, 1927, in New York football Giants history. See you next time.